Welcome to Her Fantasy Football. You can hear us on Blog Talk Radio /Her Fantasy Football and on iTunes. Make sure to subscribe to us on herfantasyfootball.com so you know what we're doing this off season. And you can chat with us on Twitter at Her Fantasy FB and on Facebook /Her Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Lee. Brandon Marianne Lee.
Oh. Good thing to clarify there.
Whipping it out.
Ooh, you switching things up this year, Brandon Marianne Lee?
I think I have to.
Ooh.
Oh.
Why, is a crow coming after you?
Yeah. Bruce Lee is upset.
Pissed. Her birth name is Brandon Mary Lee. But then she married a Lee, she's now Marianne.
Brandon Mary Lee was really terrible. It's really bad.
It's really kind of bad either way you put it. Brandon Lee, Brandon Mary Lee.
No, Brandon Mary Lee is by far the worst. So she took my middle name on the end, dropped the Lee, and took my middle name Ann to become Brandon Mary Ann Lee.
Which is BS, because what about me? You didn't even add my middle name. You could have been Jean Ann.
Well, Jean ends with A-N. That's good enough.
Oh.
I
was like, yeah, where are you going with this?
What's the problem with it ending with an A-N? Way to try to merge that there, Brandon.
Yeah.
Epic fail, but okay, we'll go with it.
It's okay. On fantasy football, I'm Courtney Kirby, but legally, I'm still Courtney Williams. I never did take my husband's last name except for fantasy football, which is his biggest passion. So I feel like it's a win-win situation for him.
It really is.
Really,
Really
is.
Everybody wins. And actually, on the New York ID, they put your last name first and then your last name, and then your first name. So I look like Lee Brandon. So actually, I get less problems with my name.
Oh.
Yeah, happy
There
accident.
you go.
Turns out no one second guesses an Ashley Williams. Pretty basic. Pretty basic.
So good. So true.
Yeah.
Well, now that we just started off the show about something that none of you guys care
None
about.
even care about. No one.
Yeah,
It's
sorry, we
kind
might
of-
cut this.
It's kind of the role of the show because we're not going to talk about quarterbacks
No.
or wide receivers
Mm.
or possibly your first draft, first pick of the draft or running back. No, we're not. We're going to talk about all the people that nobody cares about until the 15th round. Talking about kickers, your defense, and we'll start off with some tight ends, which, we know we got some Gronk fans out there that might go crazy.
Gronkaroonie.
Gronk to remember.
It's the summer of Gronk.
It's the summer of Gronk.
It's always the summer of Gronk.
Yes.
In my heart.
Did you guys see Gronkowski on Family Feud?
Well, I didn't see the actual. I saw the footage about it. I didn't see him actually on the show.
So you saw the footage. Is like what all things can you deflate? Did you see that? That was the question. What are some things that you can deflate? And Gronk hits the button and he's like, no, screw that. I don't want this question.
Good for him.
Oh, it's so good. I didn't watch it either. I just saw that little part. So it was good. So
did he say D's nuts?
D's nuts? No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Because that's my favorite home video of all time.
No,
you can deflate D's nuts. But why would you want someone to deflate your nuts?
I'd love to see someone try. That wouldn't work out well.
We are getting to football, I swear to God.
Awesome. Let's get to it right now. Let's start off with our tight ends. We do our rankings. We all do a little bit of a rankings. We've split it up, so each of us have two different positions. Tight ends is the lovely Brandon Marianne Lee. So we'll start off there. The top 15 tight ends preseason 2015. We've got Rob Gronkowski, Greg Olsen, Jimmy Graham at number 3, Travis Kelce, Martellus Bennett, my faves, Delanie Walker, Jordan Cameron at number 7, Jason Witten, Julius Thomas, Zach Ertz at number 10. We got Dwayne Allen, Kyle Rudolph, Vernon Davis, Josh Hill, and finishing it up at number 15, the never died, never gonna die, Antonio Gates.
And he'd be much higher if he didn't, enjoy herbal supplements.
Maybe that's what's kept him in the game.
Herbal? Yeah, he said it was like a natural supplement that he was using, trying to repair himself from last season. So, like, who knows if that's true or not, but that's what he said in his statement, and it seemed very genuine. It was a very long statement.
Yeah. It did.
I believe it.
Yeah, took full responsibility.
Because they're told those natural supplements have problems.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff in it that they don't have to list. So that that's what he said, so I'll take him at his word. He hasn't done anything to make me not trust him.
He's 35 years old, for heaven's sakes. If he was that kind of person, you would have thought, he would have gotten caught a lot earlier than that.
I think he's actually 45.
Yeah, seriously.
The herbal supplements 35. That's the difference. Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.
No, I agree. Like, usually we're skeptical. I 100% believe him that he did not know.
Yeah, and you know what? I might be a sucker. Fine.
I'm okay with being a sucker on this one.
Yep, me too.
Cover my eyes. I can't see anything. Let's break these tight ends down into, let's say, 3 tiers for the top 15 players. Where's the first cutoff, guys?
Rob Gronkowski.
Wrong. Yeah, I mean,
he gets 1. It's one
I
name.
think you almost need like 4 tiers.
It's no.
I mean, I would even say like 5.
Well, here's the thing.
5 tiers of the top 15 players.
I know that sounds crazy,
but
to me, it's
the question
like
was top 3.
Yeah, and then it's Greg Olsen and Jimmy Graham, and then it's like Travis Kelce through, in my opinion, Delaney Walker, and then it's Jordan Cameron through Julius Thomas, and then probably Zach Ertz down.
Intriguing.
Is that crazy? That could be crazy.
I would agree. I think that Gronk is your top tier, but I'm not making him his own tier because I think everyone knows that Gronk is by far a step above. But the question is top 3 tiers, so I'm going to add in that tier,
all right,
in the top tier, the first 3 players: Rob Gronkowski, Greg Olsen, Jimmy Graham. I don't think it's even remotely debatable. That's your top 3.
Agree,
in my opinion.
Although a lot of people have this Travis Kelce guy way up, which
I don't. In fact, later in my notes, I would say I almost disagree that I think Antonio Gates, even with his suspension, should be in the Travis Kelce spot.
Whoa, up at number 4 without 4 games.
4
at 35.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like your style, Ashley.
I do.
That goes into the bold predictions, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. But here's the thing: that top 3 tier is what I like about them. Is that the good news is that they're always going to produce for you decent numbers. Always, and the rest of the guys kind of fall into that 3-point range you can anticipate. Where the other 3 guys, you're going to get more than 3 points every single game, and that sets them apart.
I'm pretty confident that Kelce, Bennett, and Walker are going to produce as well.
I love me some Bennett. I mean, I can't. That's kind of where my first tier ends, or second tier, because again, Rob Gronkowski's on himself, and I would say that the first 5, Greg Olsen, Jimmy, Travis, and Martellus, I would all kind of put them in the same realm. I would put all of them right together. I think Bennett's going to have a great year. And I think Delaney Walker's kind of where it goes, okay, jump, right? We've got players that can sometimes be inconsistent or are on inconsistent teams and or cannot stay healthy. So that's where, to me, it kind of like, and I would kind of clump all of those guys together. I kind of love Vernon Davis this year. I think he's going to have a bounce-back year from last year.
I rated him a little high compared to a lot of people, but I feel the same way. I talk about that later in the notes. I feel like it just can't – actually, I don't. I don't talk about it later, so let's talk about it now. I feel like there was an issue last year with their offense that they decided to do a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and it didn't work. Although Colin Kaepernick's pass completion percentage has gone up every single year, so have his yards. I think that we thought he was worse than he was last year because everyone overdrafted him. They thought he would be a top 5 guy, which was an irrational thing, and we told you last year it was irrational.
Yep.
And so I think that this year we're going to be pleasantly surprised, I think, by the whole team, because it can't be worse than what we think they're going to do, which is borderline Jacksonville territory. So
that's the barometer right there. Like, ooh, they're dipping low. They're dipping near Jacksonville.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I feel like Delanie Walker is the real deal.
I am excited for Walker this year.
I think that they need him with that rookie quarterback. Last year he had 63 catches, 890 yards, but only 4 touchdowns. So depending on whether they can get the ball down the field, hopefully he can get those touchdowns up. But that's a great year for a tight end. And I think that you can get him pretty cheap, and why not? They need him, and I enjoy his presence on this team. Right now, borderline, he's a veteran because the team is so young. I think that he has a really good chance of being a standout guy. So I agree with you. I think Bennett, Walker, that area. I think once you get to the Jordan Cameron, Jason Witten, Julius Thomas area, it's so much unknown.
Right, exactly. It kind of like really gets you to that moment of there's so many things around them that can affect their play week to week. It's just kind of crazy. Although I do love Dwayne Allen as well. I think that although this is a very crowded team with a lot of talent to be pulled in a lot of different directions, for a position that's so inconsistent, I think that Dwayne Allen could be a good choice for you.
He did lose some weight, too, in the offseason.
Yeah, I talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about diet later.
Let's do it. Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, are we officially on to tier 2 at this point?
I think we did all the tiers.
I think we kind of did the tiers, but let's actually we're going to branch off into tier 2. What else do you have to add to that?
Well, I kind of disagreed a little bit because I always said my top was Gronk through Graham, and then tier 2 would have been Kelsey through Thomas. And then the next down, Ertz down, although I would bump Antonio Gates up much higher. Much, 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 much higher. Because at the end of the day, he's still going to be a top 5 tight end when all is said and done, even after his 4-game suspension. He will.
Well, if you play daily fantasy, the second he's back in, plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, he will be a top 5 tight end. Absolutely. But the great news is you're able to get him for fairly low because of the 4-game suspension. Everybody's a little gun shy to get him. But I think he's definitely worth it. And what I like about Delanie Walker, what I'm so excited about, is that he did have a great season last year, even despite having, a circus of quarterbacks, but he was always consistent. Walker's not the kind of guy that drops the balls, that, isn't there to the play. He's consistent. He just didn't get consistently targeted. And with the fact that we've got kind of a little bit of inexperienced quarterbacks, tight ends always receive the love on that with the dump offs, and I think Walker's going to be fantastic this year.
I love that we've all talked about Walker. Walker's my team, people.
I know. Well,
it's my team. But thank you for reading the stats and saying why he's great.
I like Jason Witten this year too, though, guys. I do. I think Witten's going to bounce back here.
I hate Witten.
Oh,
I do. Man, that man, he seems like he's always going to get you 4 more points. And he just doesn't. He's the reason why tight ends is such a disappointment position for me.
Yeah.
What I like,
Jason Witten is the perfect example of it. Like he should get you 4 more points.
But I just don't understand why. Witten is better when the running game's not great.
It's true. That is true, Ashley.
When the running back is fantastic, Witten doesn't get used as much. But the fact that we've got Darren McFadden and Randall coming in, these are not exactly 2 stellar running backs. That Witten will be used. He will be used on the outside of the line. He will be used in the dump-off plays. He will be used much more this year than he was last year because they didn't need him as much.
Yeah.
It's true. It's a good point, Ashley. I like that. Witten. All right. Well, I guess I'll take him off my hate you, don't draft ever again list.
How many of us will have our oldest player on our fantasy team be a tight end this year?
Very likely.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
No, it's nuts. It's a very weird place. I do like how low you can get Witten now.
Low. I got him real low in one of our drafts already.
Yeah. I agree.
Speaking of which, Ashley, are you still doing your draft in the Scott Fish Bowl 2015?
Oh my goodness, did my league, we went slow. We went, I think, like 4 days longer than you guys did. Yeah, no, we finished up, I want to say, on Tuesday morning. And it started Monday, so over a week it went. But, yeah, I got Witten, I want to say, around 18, 19.
Wow.
And this is in a league where you only draft quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, and running backs. I mean,
Right.
he was still available, so I feel really good about that.
Heck yeah. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good, Brandon. What about your second tier? Do you have anything to add to it?
Nope. But I would love to talk about the next question because I'm pumped.
All right, this is our favorite, the haters. Haters gonna hate. Which tight end that didn't make? Oh, I guess we'll skip. We'll be back to the haters in just a second. But we'll start with which tight end that didn't make the top 15 would be a great backup for your first round tight end.
Well, I want to ask first, who covers the Bengals, and are you talking about Tyler Eifert today?
I am not.
Great, because I forgot what teams I did, and I wrote about Tyler Eifert, and I thought that was funny.
I did it.
I also wrote about Delaney Walker, which is why I read his stats, because clearly I don't know who I'm covering anymore.
Yeah. You're only covering the important people, apparently. Minus
I
Eifert.
do, though. I covered Jason Witten and Vernon Davis. I didn't write about them. No, Tyler Eifert, he dislocated his elbow in week 1 last year, and that was his sophomore season. So we only had a rookie season, and tight end rookies, I'm going to tell you later here, not okay. Don't do it. Don't do it. But listen, he's supposedly having a great camp, and I'm kind of digging him. You can get him dead last pick of the draft. You can get him. And I think that there might be some serious potential there for Tyler Eifert. So there you go. And we have no numbers to go off of with him, but just gut reaction. They let Jermaine Gresham go, which, by the way, he's like shopping himself. He already has offers. He's like, I'm going to still look around. Also, if Jermaine Gresham ends up in a good spot, I'm not against drafting him either, especially in a good matchup. Not against it. But they got rid of him because they feel so great about Tyler Eifert. And dislocated elbow, if he's okay, he's okay. You know, we can move forward. I'm not as worried.
I mean, Gronk basically has a robot arm.
Yeah.
And he can do anything. So
They're allowed in the NFL now. It's fine.
Yeah. What about you, Ashley?
I'm gonna go with Jared Cook. I think he has a fantastic opportunity to have his best year yet. St. Louis with Nick Foles at the helm. I do. You know, Jared Cook is one of those guys that will have a couple big games every year, you know, and he's virtually had no solid quarterback. You know, and Bradford has been hurt for years now, and there's been a circus of quarterbacks coming in with absolutely no consistency. Yep. And despite this, he was still the 15th highest scoring tight end last year, which to me was shocking because, again, zero offensive production, it seems like, out of St. Louis, and he still is the 15th highest scoring tight end. You put a quarterback like Nick Foles in there who has the ability to actually consistently get him the ball where it needs to be in the perfect routes. I think he's got a fantastic opportunity. I think nothing but, you know, good stuff for him. And you can get him either not even drafted or super late and just stockpile him for later. So I think he's going to be huge. Huge. Call it now.
We talked about it at the top of the show, but Antonio Gates suspended for the first 4 weeks. So if you pick him up, Ladarius Green is going to be his backup for the first 4 weeks. And what I hear is that they're going to be using him. So even when Gates comes back, let's not forget, although the man never dies, he sure does move slow. He's a slow mover. And the one thing that Philip Rivers has said about Green this offseason is that he looks faster than he's ever seen him.
That's because he's been looking at Antonio Gates as an optical illusion.
Seriously.
Ladarius Green's actually pretty quick for how huge he is. But yeah, I mean, seriously, if you had them next to each other, you'd be like, is that lightning?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
I think Peyton Manning could probably beat him in a 40-yard dash. I mean,
that's
the worst. That's the worst race I could imagine. Antonio Gates and Peyton Manning.
Are you kidding me? I would love to see that race. I would tune in to see that.
The tortoise versus the tortoise. Yeah. Oh my.
That's fabulous.
We're going straight to Hades for even suggesting this.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I'd love it.
We're selling tickets. That's our $1 million idea.
It really is. Veteran 40-yard dashes.
Oh, that's good.
And bring someone like Brett Favre in to open it up for you.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
He can shoot the starting gun.
Awesome.
All right, you two, give me 2 tight ends that that we should have on our draft radar that you really like. And I'll start this one off because one of them's already taken, Delaney Walker. We've already talked about him. We got it. Brendan read the stats. Ashley already praised him. We love Delaney Walker. Obviously, we're all fans here, okay? But my other one is, I have a love-hate relationship with this guy, and I'm trying to look positive at tight ends. Especially since my hatred for Jason Witten came out so abruptly at the beginning of the show. So I will just say Jordan Cameron, new team, new offense. Let's all hope a new outlook on how not to screw over his fantasy owners, okay? That's what we're all crossing our fingers for because he's good, you guys. He is a good player. He's large. I love Tannehill this year on every platform, so the fact that, he's throwing in the ball, hopefully, this is just like a really great chemistry, that the team seems to really enjoy him. This is it, you guys. This is the turning point. He's going to stay healthy for all 16 games. Okay, that's probably not going to happen, so you definitely want to have a backup. But hopefully in the games that he is healthy in, he will get you some good fantasy points. He can do it. Jordan Cameron can do it, and the Miami Dolphins can do it. They can be strong on offense. I can feel it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say that Greg Olsen, in my opinion, is the number 2 guy because I don't see there's any reason why he wouldn't reach the same stat line. He has the same quarterback. He has the same amount of confidence. He has the same skill set. He's healthy. I feel great about him. Unlike Jimmy Graham, who made a huge change. So I wrote an article actually for FanDuel.com/insider and all about will Jimmy Graham get lost in this run-first defense or run-first offense? And the answer is, he won't get lost, but he is going. I actually have this chart that has Russell Wilson's stats opposite opposite Drew Brees' stats, and it's a 30% decrease in yards and a 39% decrease in passing touchdowns. So I'm not saying that he's going to drop 30%, but I think he's going to drop about 15 to 20% at least. And I don't see that happening with Greg Olsen based off of what we've seen in the offseason. So last year, 84 catches, 1,008 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think maybe even the touchdowns go up a little. I feel great about him. He's also solid every week tight end. I'm taking him above Jimmy Graham. And by that I mean Jimmy Graham's going to go off the board first. Just wait. Get Greg Olsen. That's my
totally safe bet. Ashley, real quick.
I like Dwayne Allen. I like Coby Fleener as well, but what I think is that Dwayne Allen did trim down this season. He's coming into camp, trim, slim, looking a little bit faster, and that was part of what held him back last year was the fact that Coby Fleener was more the guy that they could actually use down the field, and they used Dwayne Allen more as a blocker. This year, I really think that Dwayne Allen is actually going to get kind of the bulk of the workload, so I think if I had to pick out of the two, I'd say Dwayne Allen. And then Julius Thomas. He's an atrocious, awful blocker. But they did take a lot of investment into their offensive line, hopefully to give Bortles a little bit more time to actually make a pass. And I'm hoping they're going to use Mercedes Lewis as the actual muscle so that Julius Thomas will actually be able to get off the line kind of for the dump for Bortles.
Dump for Bortles.
Dump for Bortles. That's what's going to happen.
Man, tight ends. Ugh.
They're definitely going to take a dump.
Yep.
They're Jacksonville, so.
Wish for the best.
Hey, all the Jacksonville wide receivers are my sleepers of the year. And you know what? I'm probably going to get strung up for that. But that is what I feel.
All right. Defenses. This comes late in the draft, guys, but it can be important. I'm interested to hear what you ladies think about how to draft a defense. But let's go over our top 15 defenses in preseason of 2015. We have the Seattle Seahawks as number 1, Buffalo Bills, St. Louis Rams, Houston Texans. We got the Denver Broncos at number 5, Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets. Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals number 8, Baltimore Ravens number 9, the New England Patriots, Green Bay Packers up there, Carolina Panthers. Number 13, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Detroit Lions round us up at number 15. Man. Remember when the Steelers used to be up on the list?
Oh, so sad.
They were
so sad. So sad. The fact that Detroit's at number 15 now, it makes me feel like they're soon to be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, stop.
And it makes me cry because how is this possible?
The era is over.
The era's over. I don't know. Could be. It could be. All right, ladies, defenses. This is when it gets a little dicey. Some people go crazy over defenses, draft them really high. Some people wait until the very, very end. Some people don't even care about defenses at all. Where do you guys stand? How are you doing this with your drafts?
Well, listen, everybody matters on your team, but they matter week to week, matchup. And that's how I usually do my defenses. However, if I have a top 5 defense, I do hold on to them. My only question mark here is, where's the Philly D? I don't have Philadelphia. So again, I'm a terrible person. But they had the most turnovers last year with 12 interceptions, 16 fumbles, which was number 1. I love them. And they had the most scores too, 7. They had 7 scores on defense last year. So, but I think, listen, you got to look at what's going on that year, because once again, no one thought Philly would be making those fantasy points, so no one was paying attention to how good they were. So also look, your defense actually might be a top 5 defense, and you don't even know it. So, but I do stream unless I get someone that I really, really, really like Buffalo. Obviously, I would keep Buffalo, but anyway.
So you're a streamer. So you're not going to draft the Seattle Seahawks early, or to get that number 1 defense, or the Bills early.
No, in fact, I don't remember if we were asked or if I was asked, like, how early you can take Seattle's defense, and I said 10th round,
right?
The earliest, in my opinion. I think you have to have your quarterback, your tight end. I think you need to have 3 running backs and 4 wide receivers, bare minimum. I just don't think, especially because there are going to be matchups where you don't want them. And they're fantastic, but I don't. There's no way I would take them above a skill position until I have them filled. So.
Good, Ashley.
I have gone 2 ways, and I switch it up based on my league and how other people in my league have drafted to that point. We're going to be honest about it. So, the first way is I draft 2 stellar defenses, kind of like Brandon's saying, in the 10th and 11th round, back to back. I do back-to-back picks that I will switch in, week out, based on who has the better matchup. And by taking a pick then, generally you can get a top defense. Maybe you can go a little higher if you wanted to, depending on how people are doing there. And I never really, I don't really switch my defenses other than those guys. I stick with those 2 the entire time, because I'd rather have that than some 6th receiver that I'm never ever going to actually insert into my lineup, realistically. Second way I do is I draft 1 really good team high. In this case, maybe I like, let's say, the Buffalo Bills more than I would want to take my 4th wide receiver, depending on who has been left at this point.
Oof.
But, generally I, Gary Brown, I don't really go over the 10th round, even that is somewhat early. But in that case, I play them every single week up to my bye, and at that point I analyze and say, how are they doing? And if they aren't exactly what I want in terms of that top pick, then I stream the rest of the time. Literally, week by week, I'm dropping that defense and picking up a new one, dropping a defense, picking up a new one, if they're not performing in a top 5 slot.
And
so ladies,
know your league.
2 defenses on your roster, then? Do you just hold the 1? Or are you going to hold the one that you like, and then you have 2 that you... Okay, the second one you kind of alternate out.
Yeah, first one I've got 2 defenses on my roster at all times. The second one, I have 1 defense, and then I'll stream if my defense is not a top 5 pick at that point. Yeah. Because you're right. Sometimes you pick a defense. Like Seattle actually wasn't all that great last year in terms. They weren't a top defense, but people picked them incredibly high. Where in reality, Philly, Buffalo, Houston, those were actually better defenses. So if you had waited till the 11th, 12th round, you could have gotten Houston,
or the 16th round.
Who was a top defense, and and so you're to hold on to Houston because they got J.J. Watt, they're scoring touchdowns, they're scoring points left and right. There's no reason for you to drop them.
And we're talking about the fact that a lot of you at home that speak to us on Twitter and what have you, play with your friends. Like you're having these really fun leagues. And that's where people take defenses early. And we're saying don't take them early in those leagues, and you can do it in the 10th round in those leagues. If you're doing something that's more like our expert leagues, you would never take a defense before the 2nd to last round because no one literally has taken a defense yet. You don't need to,
Right.
So know your league. We always come back to that. And defenses and kickers are the number 1 thing you need to know your league about. If it's an office league, someone's going to take Seattle in the 4th round, let them. No one cares. And then maybe you want to take a defense around round 10 because everyone else is taking defenses, and at some point, you're stuck with New Orleans, and that would be terrible. So I understand that, but know where you're going, and in my expert leagues, I don't even think about defense or kicker. In my friend leagues, weird things happen, and then I have to adjust. But wait as long as you can is what we're saying. Or at least that's what I'm saying, is wait as long as you can and feel comfortable, because you don't want to end up with the Bears in New Orleans and being like, which one is going to be terrible less?
Yeah.
I was in a league once with a guy who got like 10 defenses or something because he wanted to use it for trade bait. And I was like, you are an idiot. But the problem is that I had to then pick a defense earlier because there were like 2 left.
But also be smart, and this is thinking way ahead, because there are times where it makes more sense for you to literally not even start a defense than to put a defense in, because they can lose you points. Defenses are notorious for all of a sudden getting you negative 11, negative 10 points where you would have won if you hadn't even started a defense. So don't just, if you are taking this streaming approach, don't just put in a defense for the sake of putting a defensive in. If you've got a really strong lineup and you've got a suspect defense, honestly, sometimes it's better just to not even put one in.
And if you play daily, the difference between the top, the top one's usually more expensive, but the difference between 2nd through 5th place versus the last people is only a difference of a couple $100 on your salary cap. Spend the money on the defense if it's a difference of $100 or $200. I'm telling you, it makes all the difference in the world. Don't just think they're all the same. They're not. And you never want to start them against really great teams. I don't care who the defense is. If they're going up against Andrew Luck, I don't play them.
Nope.
I mean, I've been known to say that I would sell my children for the Seattle Seahawks defense circa 2013. But I like to, I like to be a follower when it comes to defenses now. Once the train starts moving, I'll hop on the ride, There's so many, when you talk about tiers for defenses, I feel like there's so many that are, can be so close. I love the Jets this year, right? I mean, I love the Jets.
Yeah.
And the Jets is going to have the #1 defense this year. You ask me, I think it's the Jets. But,
you did these rankings, right?
I do, but I think they're going to end up being the #1 defense. For preseason, Seattle Seahawks, they have all the makings in the world. They're consistent. They, lots of changes. The Bills, the Bills are going to be awesome. But that's what I'm saying. I think the Jets are going to end up on top, but they're so close. You got the Miami Dolphins at 6. That's a great defense to have, right? They were already pretty good last year. Now they got Ndamukong Suh. They have a great defensive line. I think it's just, there's a lot. Even if you had to wait until pick, Kansas City Chiefs were fantastic last year. Granted, they're not the same this year. That's why they're at number 14. But even the Chiefs, and you can trade them in and out as you go. I think that's a good #1 team to have. I think that when it comes to defenses, I can wait.
Yeah,
that you
I'm happy with so many of them.
Yeah, so many of them. They have the that dirty word potential.
But you are right, Courtney, because the train gets started. And for some reason, it's defenses more than any other position. The moment someone picks up a defense,
they start flying.
There it goes. The ball is rolling. Everybody
ball is rolling.
So do your homework beforehand to know where that cutoff is between defenses that are worth picking up and defenses that are purely stream-worthy teams. Because my personal opinion, this will probably lead into the kickers later on, I would rather wait and take my defense as the very last pick if I'm dealing with just bad defenses that are going to be streaming the whole time anyway, and get the top kicker. Because that's going to bring in more points than a streaming defense you're going to end up dropping anyway in a week.
Wow.
Perfect. All right, real quick, guys, let's go over who is going to be your top NFL defense in 2015.
Houston.
Longhorn
State. They have J.J. Watt. Jadeveon Clowney supposedly looks great. He's coming back. Everything looks good. They drafted cornerback Kevin Johnson in the first round this year. They have corners Kareem Jackson and Jonathan Joseph. They have safety Raheem Moore and now Vince Wilfork. They're in a bad division too, you guys.
Yeah,
in Indy, it's bad.
Part. Yeah.
So they're going to lean on their defense, and so will I.
Yay. Ashley?
I really like Buffalo again this year. You know, they have such a solid group of guys in all aspects of their game on the field, and they have a lot of guys returning this year. You add Sexy Rexy into that mix with his genius defensive mind, and the Bills' D is already elevated, and the season hasn't even started yet. Plus the fact that they were the second highest scoring defense last year. I mean, it's Bills all the way. Bills, baby.
Bills all the way.
Courtney
I gotta say, it's got to be the Broncos this year, man. It's got to be the Broncos. All of those names: T.J. Ward, Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, Marshall, Talib. I mean, and it just keeps going. It has got to work out this year. It has got to be the year of the Denver Broncos. They're all about to die, or be free agents next year. I don't know if we're gonna have Von Miller next year. We're probably not going to be able to afford DeMarcus Ware again. So it's just like
now or never.
They have to do it. I say we because I'm a Denver Broncos fan. They have to do it this year. They have to put up the numbers that the offense is putting up. All right?
They need to put up turnovers. That's their problem. They don't have enough turnovers to make them fantasy relevant.
Not enough turnovers. All right, you guys, let's start off with some, let's finish the show with some kickers, because kickers do matter. It's the truth.
I wrote a whole article on it, people.
Wrote a whole article. Nice. Kickers do matter. Steven Gostkowski. That's the Gostkowski I love.
Every year.
Yeah, every year. I love half of these names though. I'm very sentimental.
Kickers have the best names. They really do.
They really are. Steven Hauschka. Justin Tucker, big fantasy player. Dan Bailey, Adam Vinatieri, the kicker that will never go away. He'll be playing well into his 70s. Mason Crosby, Cody Barkey, Connor Barth, which if you don't know, he plays for Denver Broncos. Matt Bryant, Sean Sossum.
Sweesum.
Oh man, I should have spelled that one out like I did later.
Did you say Sossum? That's awesome.
It's like awesome.
Pre-show, Courtney kept tripping up on his name, so she was trying to phonetically spell it out, and clearly missed it on the ranking part.
Well, I didn't put the phonetic part here on the ranking.
Sean Saucy Sossum.
I want to have him on the show and be like, "Excuse me, Mr. Sossum."
Mr. Sossum. Sorry, Sean. Nick Novak, Blair Walsh, Matt Prater, Phil Dawson, and Dan Carpenter. Because that man, too, is never going away.
No, he's amazing.
He does not have the numbers as Vinatieri, but man, Carpenter is just there. He's just always going to be there. Love it.
And you can always check out our rankings on herfantasyfootball.com so that you can see beyond 15. But really, the top 15 for kickers is really all you need.
That's all I need.
That's all you need.
That's all I need to know.
That's it. At W_P_F_L says to draft a kicker before a tight end, except Gronk and Graham. Do you ladies agree with that? Are you going to be drafting your kicker before Greg Olsen, Brandon?
Hell no.
Ashley.
I'm assuming that he's kidding.
On that? I don't know. He says the numbers agree with that statement.
They do agree with that statement. Okay.
Not before your tight end. Stop it. Not your starting tight end.
Here goes crazy.
All right. All right. Here we go.
I'm going to have an aneurysm.
This is Brandon and I, maybe our biggest disagreement ever. And for people that don't know, we're sisters. So we have had 30-plus years of disagreements, and this is one we will never agree on.
I just had a birthday, and I'm 21 again. Stop it.
Right. we can't agree to disagree on this one. So naturally, I will start because I am always the one to go rogue.
I'm going to check my phone if I got any text messages. Go ahead.
So usually you do draft a kicker in the last couple rounds. So by that game, plan, you would absolutely draft a tight end over a kicker. So what do I say? Heck yeah, you could draft a kicker before you could draft a tight end. Okay, as long as you do not have the opportunity to grab a top 3, top 6 kind of tight end, okay? So there are a few guys I would say it's okay to stretch for, and by few, I mean one. There is one singular exception that you can possibly reach with, and that is Steven Gostkowski. I'm going to give you my reasoning because I can see Brandon is completely checked out because she likes to pretend I don't even exist when we talk about kickers.
I'm literally going to sit here.
I know. So here's the deal. Gostkowski scored more points than every single tight end except for Gronkowski. He scored more points than Jimmy Graham. He scored more points than Greg Olsen. Literally, Gronk is the only tight end to score more points than Gostkowski. He scored almost 20 more points than Jimmy Graham last year. And Adam Vinatieri scored only 1 point less than Jimmy Graham.
So but that's my whole point.
So here's the thing. The question really comes down to spreads. This is where Brandon could probably somewhat agree. There was a 12-point spread between the top kicker and the second best kicker. There was a 26-point spread between the first and the 10th best kicker. Whereas there was a 44-point spread between the top tight end and the 10th best tight end. So if you can't get your hands on a top 3 tight end, I wouldn't hate you for trying to snag the best kicker. I really wouldn't, for the fact that, you would have scored 39 more points by getting the best kicker in Gostkowski last year than the 4th best tight end last year. If it is not Gostkowski, you can wait on your kicker because, again, no one's picking kickers till the very end, so you can wait on it. But if people have gone for a mad dash on tight ends and all of a sudden you're stuck down there with Zach Ertz, or, I don't know, someone beyond that, Josh Hill, I wouldn't hate you for grabbing Gostkowski because everyone else already has their tight end. You could probably get him on the next round.
Heck yeah, Ashley. I'm into that. Gostkowski.
If you would have waited, you would have only had a 20-point differential. That's my whole point.
But your top kicker is still bringing in so much more points.
I agree.
Yes, there's only a 26-point spread between your first and your second.
So you only have 2 points less per week with the worst kicker in your league versus the best. Because you really only have 10 to 12, maybe 14 at the most, kickers at one time. My whole point is no one drafts a backup kicker. So you can trade in. But that's my point. My point is you can then trade in for a decent kicker if your kicker goes rogue. You can't do that for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. That's not an option. So my point is, who cares? So now you got a meh kicker, or maybe he's in Tampa Bay, so he gets some terrible disease. But you can then let them go, and then pick up a guy who's number 12 or number 13. And you know what? Sometimes the best kickers are still on the waiver wire because people didn't realize that until this year. So I just think the replacement. So not only do I think that the differential that we're talking about is so much smaller, but also the replacement is such a lower detriment to your team that's why you wait. It's not necessarily because kickers don't matter. Kickers do matter, and it's very important. And also,
you can make the same argument when you look at the tight ends, that there is not much of a point spread. Once you've broken out of that top 10 tight end range, even top 5, there is virtually a 10-point spread between your 7th best and your 15th best. They're all in that same range there. So if you really like Gostkowski and this is the guy on your team and you really want him, go for it.
Right.
Because, you do want to
my point is, what you want to do is you want to pinpoint. So I'm not even talking about just your tight end. I'm talking about your backup tight end. That's right. I'm even going to go backup tight end, which most people don't do either. But I'm saying I would rather take a chance that Tyler Eifert has a breakout as my backup tight end than worry about getting a kicker because I know I can get a kicker off waivers, worst case scenario. And the difference won't be as great, whereas maybe Tyler Eifert ends up being a top 5 tight end. But don't pick up a tight end that you think isn't going to do anything. By the way, in general, when you're drafting, once you get done with the good players that you know are going to do something, don't draft people you think are going to be garbage. Then go to the people that might hit it. A little risky. That's where you get the
who would draft people who thinks they're going to be garbage. Why would you draft somebody who's going to be bad?
Because they're higher ranked. But if you think that this particular player isn't going to do anything, that's where you take chances. That's where you get the rookies. That's where you get the the guys that you think boom or bust, or they went to a different team. It could change everything. Or you think Vernon Davis is going to have a comeback. That's where you do that. I'd rather take my chances and then leave the kicker to the end rather than take a kicker and miss out on a chance of a guy like a lot of people took Odell Beckham Jr. actually in those rounds. right? Where you were like, he's a rookie, but he has a hamstring problem, and then he ends up being amazing, So
I do agree that kickers is again a position that you can stream. And like I said, there's only one you should reach for, generally for emotional reasons and because he's the top kicker. And again, I disagree. I would be okay drafting Gostkowski before, a second string tight end. Again, if you got the opportunity to get a Martellus Bennett, a Delaney Walker, a Jimmy Graham, obviously you would be ridiculous to draft a kicker over one of those guys because there is such a spread between them and anybody else in their position. But if you really want to draft one of the top of the kickers, I don't have any hate for you drafting them over a tight end that you're maybe going to pin in a bye week that's maybe got a chance to have a couple good games. If that's your thing, because here's the thing: if there's a position to get emotional with, it's your kickers. If you really want to have someone from your team, let it be your kicker. That's what I was
going to say. I do that. I wait till the last round and I try to get the Broncos kicker, whoever that may be. But I can usually get them in the last round. But I do say don't draft your home team, but with your kicker, go for it. Unless your home team's Jacksonville.
They just don't do anything.
Poor Josh Scobie. He's actually pretty talented, but they just never get there.
Never get down there. All right, quick, ladies. Who do you love this year as a kicker? Who's your faves? Since we already said how emotional we get about it.
Obviously, this is a very emotional part of the show. Ashley actually had a really good dissertation, by the way. I want to do a thumbs up. You really did. I didn't do that. You did good work. You did good work tonight on the kicker dissertation.
Usually you completely disagree with me, so thank you.
Yeah, but I thought it was good. No, I think Dan Bailey is possibly going to have a huge year, and I'll tell you why. He had his worst completion percentage ever for his kicks, which is 86.2 last year. But I think part of it was that they just scored all the time, so he didn't need to kick field goals. It was a very weird year. But this year they don't have a run game. So I like Dan Bailey, and I think that he's going to have a pretty darn good year.
Come back. Ashley?
Sticking with the Dans. I like Dan Carpenter a lot this year. I do. So the thing what's so great about them is that the Bills will be much better this year offensively, but they're not going to be awesome. And that is the money spot. That is what you are looking for with kickers. You want a team that is just good enough to get into field goal range, but is not good enough to actually get into the end zone. That is the Bills. Dan Carpenter will be huge.
Squeeze him. Squeeze him.
Nice.
Steelers gonna score. They do. That's what they do. Sean's gonna hate. Sean's gonna get at least 4 points.
It's true.
Do it.
Antonio Brown. Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell.
I love you.
Beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing in the Steeler land. Well, this was good, you guys. Our podcast on all the other players. That's what this one is.
The other people.
Real players. It's the other
guys.
The other people count too, guys. It's true. Thank you for listening. Make sure to hop over to herfantasyfootball.com to subscribe to us so you can see what we're doing and find out our whole list of rankings. Also, chat with us on Twitter at herfantasyfb and on Facebook /herfantasyfootball. You can listen to us on Blog Talk Radio and on iTunes, where you can also write a nice little blurb and give us 5 stars. That would be great. Make sure you chat with us, you guys. Thanks a lot for listening. Until next time, no more faking it.